Have you heard the latest announcement from the Department for Work and Pensions? Millions of UK pensioners could receive an extra tax-free payment this winter, but whether you qualify depends on a few important rules that many people still don't know about. If you're a pensioner, approaching state pension age, or have parents or relatives who rely on their pension, today's information could save them from missing out on money they're entitled to receive. One date, one income limit, and one qualifying week will determine who gets this payment and who doesn't. Many people wrongly assume they won't qualify, while others think they need to submit an application when, in most cases, they actually don't. So before we begin, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We post regular updates on DWP payments, state pension changes, pension credit, winter fuel payments, and every major government announcement that could affect your finances. And if you know someone who's retired, consider sharing this video with them. They may not even realize these changes have been confirmed. Now let's get straight into it. The DWP has confirmed that the winter fuel payment will once again be available for millions of pensioners during the 2026 to 2027 winter season. This payment is designed to help older households manage rising heating costs during the coldest months of the year. Unlike many other government benefits, it is completely tax-free for eligible recipients and, in most situations, it is paid automatically without needing to complete a claim form. Depending on your circumstances, the payment can be worth between £100 and £300, and it normally arrives directly into your bank account during November or December. For many pensioners living on a fixed income, that extra money can make a real difference. It can help cover heating bills, electricity costs, or other household expenses during winter when energy use is often at its highest. However, there have been significant changes over the past 2 years. Many viewers will remember that previous rule changes left millions of pensioners in England and Wales no longer eligible for the winter fuel payment unless they were receiving pension credit or another qualifying benefit. That decision caused widespread concern because many older people who had worked all their lives suddenly found themselves excluded, despite facing the same rising energy bills as everyone else. Following considerable public pressure and political debate, the government changed course. As a result, eligibility has now expanded again, allowing millions more pensioners to receive support this winter. But that doesn't mean everyone qualifies automatically. There are still 3 important conditions you need to meet. The first, and probably the most important, is your date of birth. To qualify for this year's winter fuel payment in England and Wales, you must have been born on or before the 27th of June, 1960. That specific date isn't random. It's linked directly to the state pension age timetable. The government uses what's known as the qualifying week, which this year falls between the 21st of September and the 27th of September, 2026. Anyone who has reached state pension age by the end of that qualifying week may be eligible. Anyone born after the 27th of June, 1960 won't have reached the required age in time and therefore won't qualify for this year's payment. So if you have family members who were born close to that date, it's worth checking carefully because even a difference of a few days could affect eligibility. The second important condition is your annual income. Under the updated rules, pensioners with an annual income of £35,000 or less will generally be able to keep the winter fuel payment. This threshold applies to each individual, not to the household as a whole. That's an important distinction. For example, if one partner earns above £35,000 but the other earns less than that amount, the lower income partner may still qualify for the payment based on their own income. Many couples mistakenly assume household income is used, but under the current rules, each person's eligibility is assessed separately. The third requirement relates to where you live. The payment covered in this video applies to pensioners who are ordinarily resident in England or Wales during the qualifying week. If you live in Scotland or Northern Ireland, different schemes operate under their respective governments, with separate eligibility rules and payment arrangements. So it's important to know which program applies in your part of the UK before expecting a payment. Those are the 3 key eligibility conditions that every pensioner should understand before September arrives. In the next section, we'll explain exactly how much you could receive, why some people will automatically get the money while others may have it reclaimed later through HMRC, and the simple steps you should take now to avoid any unexpected surprises later this year. Now that you know the three main eligibility conditions, let's look at how much you could actually receive, because the amount isn't the same for everyone. The value of the winter fuel payment depends mainly on two things: your age and whether you live alone or with another eligible person. If you're between state pension age and 79 years old, the payment is generally lower than it is for those aged 80 or above. Pensioners in this age group who live alone, or who are the only eligible person in the household, can receive up to £100. If you live with another eligible pensioner, the payment arrangement changes, and each person's entitlement is calculated according to the household rules set by the DWP. For pensioners aged 80 or over, the payment increases. Depending on your living arrangements, the amount can be worth up to £300, providing additional support during the coldest months of the year. Although the exact amount varies depending on individual circumstances, the important point is that this payment is completely tax-free for eligible recipients and doesn't affect your state pension or most other benefits. When the money arrives, you'll usually see it deposited into your bank account during November or December. On your bank statement, the payment normally appears alongside your national insurance number followed by DWP WFP. So if you notice that reference during winter, you'll know your winter fuel payment has been received. Now here's something many people find confusing. You may have heard someone say that everyone receives the payment automatically, while someone else claims that higher earners have to pay it back. Both statements are actually true. Under the current system, many eligible pensioners receive the payment automatically during winter, even before their final income assessment has been completed. Later, HMRC reviews income records. If your annual income is above £35,000, the government may recover the payment through your tax code rather than asking you to send the money back directly. In other words, you could receive the payment first, but if your income exceeds the threshold, HMRC may gradually reclaim it through future tax adjustments. That's why understanding your income position is so important before the payment arrives. If you already know your income is comfortably above the threshold and you'd rather avoid receiving the payment only to have it recovered later, there is another option available. You can choose to opt out of receiving the winter fuel payment altogether. The DWP introduced this option to simplify the process for higher income pensioners who know they won't ultimately be entitled to keep the payment. For many people, however, this won't be necessary. If your income is below the threshold, the payment simply arrives and remains yours. No further action is usually required. Another date every pensioner should remember is the qualifying week, which runs from the 21st of September to the 27th of September, 2026. This single week determines eligibility for this year's payment. During that period, the DWP checks whether you meet the required conditions. That means you need to have reached the qualifying age, meet the income rules, and be ordinarily resident in England or Wales during that week. If all those conditions are satisfied, your winter fuel payment is normally processed automatically later in the year. However, there is one important group of people who shouldn't simply wait. If you've only recently reached state pension age, recently claimed your pension, changed your address, switched bank accounts, or updated your personal details, it's worth making sure the DWP has your current information. Even a simple change of bank account can sometimes delay payments if records haven't been updated correctly. A quick phone call to confirm your details can prevent unnecessary problems later. It's a small step that takes only a few minutes but could save weeks of waiting if something goes wrong. In the next part, we'll cover what pensioners in Scotland and Northern Ireland need to know, what to do if your payment doesn't arrive on time, the most common scams targeting older people during payment season, and the simple checklist every pensioner should complete before September ends. Now let's talk about something that often causes confusion every year, the different rules for Scotland and Northern Ireland. If you live in England or Wales, the winter fuel payment is administered by the DWP under the rules we've discussed so far. However, if you live in Scotland, things work differently. Scotland now operates its own winter heating support programme through Social Security Scotland rather than the Department for Work and Pensions. That means eligibility, payment amounts, and qualifying conditions can differ from those used in England and Wales. For many Scottish pensioners, entitlement depends on receiving certain qualifying benefits, such as pension credit, rather than simply meeting the income threshold used elsewhere. So, if you're watching from Scotland, don't assume the rules in this video automatically apply to you. Instead, it's worth checking the latest guidance from Social Security Scotland to see which winter heating support programme you're eligible for. The same applies to Northern Ireland, where winter fuel assistance is administered under separate arrangements. Although the purpose of the payment remains the same, helping pensioners manage winter energy costs, the administration and eligibility requirements may not be identical. Now let's answer one of the biggest questions viewers ask every year. What should I do if my winter fuel payment doesn't arrive? The first thing to remember is not to panic immediately. Most payments are issued during November and December, but not everyone receives theirs on exactly the same day. Some payments arrive slightly later because of processing times or individual circumstances. If December passes and you still haven't received your payment, check that you actually meet all the eligibility conditions. Ask yourself 3 simple questions. Were you born on or before the 27th of June, 1960? Is your annual income within the qualifying limit? Were you living in England or Wales during the qualifying week in September? If the answer to all 3 questions is yes, but the payment still hasn't arrived by the end of December, it's time to contact the Winter Fuel Payment Centre. The advisors can check whether a payment has already been issued, whether there's a delay on your record, or whether additional information is needed to complete your claim. In many cases, a simple phone call can identify the issue quickly. Another situation that sometimes causes delays involves pensioners who have recently claimed their state pension. If you've only just become eligible for the state pension this year, your records may still be updating within the DWP systems. Similarly, if you've recently moved house, changed your bank account, or updated your personal details, those changes may not yet have been reflected everywhere. That's why it's always a good idea to make sure your contact details are fully up to date well before the qualifying week. Doing this now can prevent unnecessary stress later when winter payments begin. Unfortunately, whenever government payments are announced, scammers also become more active. Every year, thousands of pensioners receive fake text messages, emails, and phone calls claiming they need to confirm their bank details or apply immediately to receive their winter fuel payment. These messages often look convincing. They may include government logos, official-looking wording, or urgent deadlines designed to pressure people into acting quickly. But here's the important thing to remember. The DWP will never send you a text message asking you to click a link to claim your winter fuel payment. They will never ask you to provide your bank details through an unexpected email or text message. If you receive any message asking you to click a link, confirm your account, or make a payment to receive your benefit, treat it as suspicious. Don't click the link. Don't provide any personal information. And don't assume the message is genuine simply because it mentions the DWP or HMRC. If you're ever unsure, contact the official Winter Fuel Payment Centre using the published government contact details rather than responding to the message itself. Protecting yourself against scams is just as important as knowing your eligibility because fraudsters often target older people during payment season. In the final part of this video, we'll recap everything you need to remember, go over the key September dates one last time, and finish with a simple action checklist that every UK pensioner should complete before the qualifying week begins. As we wrap up today's update, let's quickly go over the most important points so you know exactly what to expect over the coming months. The Department for Work and Pensions has confirmed that the winter fuel payment will once again provide extra financial support to millions of pensioners during the 2026 to 2027 winter season. For eligible people, the payment will range from £100 to £300, depending on your age and household circumstances, and in most cases it will arrive automatically during November or December. But remember, receiving the payment depends on meeting 3 key conditions. First, you must have been born on or before the 27th of June, 1960 so that you've reached state pension age by the end of the qualifying week. Second, your annual income should generally be £35,000 or below if you want to keep the payment without it being recovered through HMRC. And third, during the qualifying week, from the 21st of September to the 27th of September, 2026, you must be ordinarily resident in England or Wales, unless you're covered under a separate scheme in Scotland or Northern Ireland. If all of those conditions apply to you, there's a very good chance your payment will arrive automatically without you having to complete a separate application. However, don't assume everything will happen without checking your own situation. If you've recently reached state pension age, moved home, changed your bank account, or updated any personal details, take a few minutes to make sure the DWP has your latest information. That small step could prevent delays when payments begin later this year. It's also worth keeping an eye on your bank statement during November and December. The payment normally appears with your national insurance number followed by DWP WFP. If you don't see it by the end of December and you believe you're eligible, contact the Winter Fuel Payment Center rather than waiting and hoping the money will eventually appear. And one final reminder that can't be repeated enough: be extremely careful of scams. Every winter, fraudsters target pensioners by pretending to be from the DWP or HMRC. They may send fake text messages, emails, or even make phone calls claiming you need to confirm your payment or verify your bank details. The real DWP will never ask you to claim your winter fuel payment through a text message link or request sensitive personal information in that way. If something doesn't look right, don't respond. Instead, contact the official government helpline using trusted contact details. Taking a few extra minutes to verify information could protect both your payment and your personal details. Now here's your simple checklist before September arrives. Have a checkmark # confirm your date of birth meets the eligibility requirement. Have a checkmark # check whether your annual income falls within the qualifying threshold. Have a checkmark # make sure your address and bank details are up to date with the DWP. Have a checkmark # mark the 21st to 27th of September on your calendar because that's the official qualifying week. Have a checkmark # watch your bank account during November and December for the winter fuel payment. Doing these 5 simple things now can help ensure you receive any payment you're entitled to without unnecessary delays or confusion. If you found today's update helpful, please take a moment to like this video because it helps more pensioners discover information that could make a real difference this winter. Also, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. We publish daily updates on the DWP, state pension, pension credit, winter fuel payments, attendance allowance, cost of living support, and every important UK retirement announcement as soon as it's confirmed. Finally, share this video with your family, friends, neighbors, or anyone approaching state pension age. A simple share could help someone learn about a payment they didn't even know they qualified for. Thank you so much for watching, thank you for your continued support, and as always, take care of yourselves, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.